couldn't sleep. Not because I was nervous or worried or regretting anything I posted. It's more like I have something inside of me and I can't tell if I want to push it outward because I want to tell you something, because something happened to me, something wonderful, or because I arrange the puzzle pieces of my life into an order that makes sense by processing outward using social media as I have done since basically I became an adult. It is my process at this point. I used the phrase embodiment last night and talked about how that has become a reference point for me. I first experienced this since I had kids, since I became an adult, since I became a teenager. I'm not really sure when I lost that feeling, but I experienced it 14 months ago when I did a Kore Mascara online meditation retreat the same weekend that my parents came to visit me when we were living in Wenatchee. And it was such a difficult visit because things with my mom have been really difficult for a long time. And it wasn't until I experienced something different that I understood how distorted my relationship with my mother had become over time. And over the past 14 months, I've realized how much of that distortion extends through my entire family dynamic. And my feeling state outside of embodiment, this trauma reactive place I operate from, feels like my face flushing, my pulse quickening, my body tightening. I've already said pulse quickening, heart racing, just tightness and aggression. My conversational tactics are defensive, aggressive, territorial. The tone of my voice changes, the speed of my voice changes, everything about me moves into a defensive crouch. That is the reaction that is a reaction that comes from generational trauma, from hurting people. And it feels important to talk about small t trauma and big T trauma. And the reason why I can't get at this, I think the reason why I want to keep talking about it is because I have experienced a conversion in my life as dramatic as when I left Mormonism. Literally 0 people who feel tight, defensive, and reactive with their family want to feel tight, defensive, and reactive with their family. 0 people who feel tight, defensive, and reactive in any aspect of their life want to feel this way. Everyone wants to feel different. And this is very new. And I know that I come into things with this big, dramatic energy, passionate energy. I like that a little better than dramatic. But when I went away with my partner, was that 3 weeks ago now? The container that we worked within was me saying, I have fundamentally changed in as dramatic a way as I did when we left Mormonism together. And we need to have a conversation. We need to open a conversation up about what that means for us. I am fairly fearless in this regard when it comes to relationships. My stance from the beginning of our relationship, when I made him a PowerPoint presentation and manipulated him using the kind of language and tactics that I knew and understand, because Mormonism is a cult. I believe that, and I am also claiming and owning that my experience within Mormonism was as a high mind control group. If you disagree with this, that means you have a different experience. But how powerful to feel like I can own that. If you don't like hearing that, you shouldn't be listening to me, because I feel separation. I feel more separation from this tangled mess of things that I judge and deem to be flat out wrong. The reason why I want to talk about things is because I grew up in a family that doesn't talk about things, and I can see now that tactic, that plan is it's a bad idea. You shouldn't do it. It doesn't work. It doesn't mean that you push yourself past your boundaries and what you're comfortable with, but also I am incredibly comfortable sharing this way. The thing that seems to be uncomfortable in this situation is other people. Wow. That's theirs. That's yours. Maybe what I'm trying to get at is not just there's been this awakening. And people who go through awakenings generally do want to talk about them. Because anytime you wake up to something that was a serious detriment to you in some way, my experience in Mormonism was a cult, and cults are a serious detriment to the individual, because cults are not about the individual. Cults are about serving the cult. That's your responsibility and your job. And an unhealthy family dynamic is also a cult. Your responsibility is to the unhealthy family dynamic. If you want safety, if you want to feel accepted and validated and seen and loved, you must operate within the family cult dynamic. Insta's mad at me again, so I'm going to have to speed things up. Last night, this phrase came into my head and just kept rolling around from my childhood lexicon. I narrowed it down to something very pithy. What was it? Absent rest, Jello never sets. Yes, absent rest, Jello never sets. Let's go back to embodiment, the importance of having a different, slowing down so that you can have a different feeling and lived experience in your body, in addition to trying to understand which of these trauma-informed modalities will help you understand what you can do to make your shift. I believe this is possible for everyone. 14 months ago, I have an experience that communicates to me, well, I didn't even understand that I was feeling trauma reactive in my body. I didn't understand how to feel my experience in my body. This is very, very common when you grew up in a narcissistic environment. I think there's a lot of you out there listening who probably are in the state. That is a big part of the reason why I want to talk about it, because just like when you come out of Mormonism and you feel like, wait, what? Like there are so many ludicrously simple ways to ask questions that make it very clear that the foundation just crumbles right away on that thing. And since that experience with my mom last summer, I have been on this tear to try to learn and understand as much as I possibly can about what I now call generational trauma and small t trauma. And it's really important, if you are curious about this and you don't know about small t trauma, Googling big T trauma and small t trauma and reading and learning about them is a really great first step if you'd like to try to dig into this yourself. Because I now believe that a whole swath of things that are affecting people negatively that we don't really understand, that we kind of slap labels on. CFS is one of them, is one of those buckets for me. It's not always, but in my case, I think trauma contributes to my bodily state. And I went home this weekend and I held to my boundaries around my mom because she's not taking that first step. There's no other way to put it. She is not making the move toward me that I am willing to make toward her. And we are going to be in an impasse until that changes. That's why we are no contact. And I won't be seeing her again until that happens. And it's really important to stay there because I don't feel ready for anything else. The other conversations that I had this weekend, the other interactions that I had this weekend did at times involve trauma reactions. I was trauma reactive during some of these encounters. I could really feel it now. And now I know something really important. I can keep myself safe. And by that, I mean I can move through the world with the understanding and the knowledge and the skills necessary to not have so much of my lived experience be trauma reactive. I can empower myself. There are things I can do to feel different in my body and and I believe very strongly that this is a crucial step toward having the kind of happy and fulfilled and productive life I want to have.